Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Matt Bernier for DRF Weekend Wrap. Taking a look back at last Saturday's Grade 3 Harlan's Holiday Stakes, going a mile and a 16th at Gulfstream. It's the local prep for the Pegasus World Cup. Todd Pletcher, he only had 3. They break from the gate. He's got Stanford, the number 1, who's going to be hustled right to the front. Where's the speed from the 4, Awesome Slew?
Seems like they made a concerted effort to take him off the pace. I don't really think that was a smart move, simply because it almost feels reactionary to the way that he ran in the Pennsylvania Derby. At the end of the day, you can't allow a seasoned horse like Stanford to go out there. I understand that short run into the first turn. At this point, when you look at these fractions, it was going to be difficult for anyone to run down Stanford.
We hadn't seen Stanford since the Metropolitan Handicap. Maybe he was fresh off the layoff, but he has come to hand and they're walking. 24-3 for the first quarter mile, and the 2015 Travers winner, also trained by Todd Pletcher, Keen Ice, is in the 4 path at the back of the pack, and it's not an ideal trip the way this racetrack was playing, the way this pace is setting up, and he's just losing ground.
But I like what Javier did right here. At the end of the day, you couldn't sit back and try and make some big sweeping run like he's kind of accustomed to doing. He tried to get him into the running here. You see the half mile, 48-4. I don't know. He was just up against it at this point. I don't want to really blame the ground loss, because at the end of the day, this is a horse that wants to go about 10 miles. But he was certainly up against it with the way this race was run.
Stanford is certainly moving more comfortably than Awesome Slew right now. Keen Ice, being asked for more run, continues his wide journey. Down inside is the third of the Pletcher 3. That is Made from Lucky. We haven't seen him since April. He's under a ride right now and is only going to finish with a 1-paced effort.
Not going to hold this against him, though. Again, this seems like this kind of racetrack, and particularly this kind of company, probably just too much for him at this point.
Short stretch of the mile and a 16th at Gulfstream is going to help out Stanford, although he really doesn't need much help. He is gone. The pace really helped him out. Keen Ice, though, digging in for second despite all that ground loss. Awesome Slews, he's going to run third. But Stanford, gate to wire, he returns with a vengeance as a 4-year-old. I haven't seen him since the Met Mile. He is by Malibu Moon. It's the second graded stakes win of Stanford's career. He, of course, won the Charlestown Classic.
He's an interesting horse going forward. I don't see why they wouldn't consider a race like the Pegasus should he get an entry in there. I don't know if he's quite that good, but at Gulfstream Park, and you have Todd Pletcher in your corner and you have speed, there are much worse scenarios that you could draw up for a horse in a race like that.
$120,000 Keeneland yearling, who we sold for $550,000 as a Barrett's 2-year-old. He's by Malibu Moon, from the family of Johannesburg and Tail of the Cat. And speed always kills, especially at Gulfstream, and Pletcher is always dangerous, especially at Gulfstream. I did think you had to be up close at Gulfstream last Saturday. Might have helped Stanford just a little bit, might have worked against Keen Ice a little bit, but you and I are going to vehemently disagree concerning Keen Ice. I really think that Todd Pletcher, when he first got his hands on Keen Ice from Dale Romans, has planned on one race, and that was the Pegasus, to get into that race, and I think we have seen a gradual progression from start to start. His lead changes were much smoother this time than they were in the Breeders' Cup Classic when he finished a well-beaten third. Now, I'm not saying he is even in the league of Arrogate. I'm not saying he's even in the league of California Chrome, but I have a feeling if he shows up in the Pegasus World Cup, he's going to surprise some people with a good effort. Maybe not surprise the top 2, but I think he'll run well.
I guess that's where we'll disagree. I don't think, at the end of the day, I think he'll run his race, and he'll probably run third. I mean, that just is what he is.
Right, which is probably what they're shooting for.
And
right
that's you know what? As long as you don't have any sort of, you're not, setting yourself up for some, real terrible disappointment if he gets pounded.
But isn't he the kind of horse that, let's say he runs third in the Pegasus World Cup, doesn't Todd ship him to Santini and he's a major threat in the Santini handicap?
Oh man, I disagree, but I just feel like, again, a horse like this, you can't. I mean, Gulfstream and Santa Anita, Southern California in general, you're always going to be up against it with that running style, and even at Gulfstream, and that's kind of why I don't want to knock Stanford. Now look, if I'm going to knock him for anything, it's because he walked on the lead. It's not because the track was, a little bit tilted towards speed. That's just Gulfstream in general, more often than not. Keen Ice is a horse that, in my opinion, is always going to be up against it when you want to take back and make that one run.
That's a fair point.
How often does that work on dirt in North America?
That's a fair point. Although in the Pegasus World Cup, if all the players show up, and if Stanford shows up, and if Neolithic shows up with California Chrome, maybe Keen Ice will get at least a pace. Perhaps the track still wouldn't work in his favor. As for Stanford, 103 Beyer speed figure. He is a really hard hitter when he's feeling right. Can he step with these horses if they go to the Pegasus?
Probably not, if we're being honest, but I think it could be one of those scenarios that maybe he runs fourth, maybe he fades a little bit and still gets a piece, and again, a piece in a $12 million race certainly nothing to sneeze at. I'm more intrigued going forward. You've got to assume they've already circled the Charlestown Classic, which he won last year. Big money there. I believe it's $1.25 million, $1.5 million is the purse. After that, though, is when things get interesting, because I don't know that he's a mile kind. I know he took money in that race last year. He was the second choice, I think. But I don't know that he's quite that good. I don't know that he's really a 1 1/8 horse on a sort of, air quotes, fair track on an even surface. I don't know what you do with him after
Maybe he's
that.
a Charlestown Classic Stephen Foster type horse.
Maybe
you
try
give him a little
Churchill,
bit of a break and think maybe the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile down the road.
Dirt Mile's
for him.
probably
two-turn at Delmar, much better than the
probably
1-turn, I think, in the Met Mile.
Agreed.
I think Awesome Slew needs a cutback in distance. I understand why they've tried this. He ran so well in that Smarty Jones Stakes. The Pennsylvania Derby, very ambitious ride against tough horses. That race has come back extremely strong. I've always liked him as a 7-furlong 1-turn miler. I don't know if he's as good as a race like the Met Mile, but I'd love to see like the Carter handicap.
I mean, coming out of this race, couldn't you look at a race like the Howell's Hope, maybe? I
think that'd be a great spot for him.
And I also think, maybe this is just riding to instructions, but I kind of feel like the race was over for this horse the minute they didn't go. I mean, your best asset is your speed. And realistically, maybe he would have faded no matter what. But we saw, when you go 48-4, if this horse for some reason, let's just say, ran 48-2, I mean, is he going to pack it in completely down the lane? We've seen that he's run well enough in the past. I just feel like it was one of those scenarios where you took him out of his best game, and I don't want to completely hold it against him.
And he's still a 3-year-old. He's still learning.
First time
he's fairly
older.
lightly raced. We hadn't seen Made from Lucky since April the 9th. He probably needed the race. He's just not a very exciting horse to watch. He's kind of a grinder. You get a feeling more distance is what he wants. If he doesn't get into that Pegasus, there's that $400,000 race on the undercard of Pegasus Day, the Poseidon, and maybe that would be a good spot for him second back.
I don't think that's a terrible spot. I also wouldn't be stunned if we saw this one shipped to Arkansas. We've seen him. He ran second behind American Pharoah in the Triple Crown prep races leading up to the Derby and the Arkansas Derby, and I believe the race prior to that. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's the route they go. We've talked about it. I mean, Todd usually sends at least one to Arkansas. Which one of his 17 is it going to be this year?
He's heating up at Gulfstream, no doubt about it. Todd Pletcher runs 1, 2, 4 in the Grade 3 Harlan's Holiday. All 3 possible for the Pegasus World Cup. We expect Stainford and Keenhigh somehow to get a berth in that $12 million race.